Good afternoon, everyone. This is Neil Dukoff, founder and CEO of Strategies. And I am here to take you through, actually, it's our 8th town hall meeting. Time flies when you have no idea what day or week or time it is, or what week you're in for your PPP loan, our art. Anyway, this is an opportunity to hear from two owners that have been able to get their companies open. One owner, Doug Bostick, literally opened up just last Monday, and he's going to be able to share his experiences because they're really, really fresh. And Andrea opened up, a few weeks ago, I think, Andrea?
Yep, on May 1st.
All right. So how about this? Before I get into the slides, how about Andrea, you introduce yourself, and then Doug, you introduce yourself, and then I just have a couple slides to kind of get the show going here, and then we'll get into some interview and get everyone all tuned up on what it's like to open your business again.
Andrea, before you jump in, I'm just going to jump on and just say hello to everyone again. As usual with our town halls, Michael Yost, Director of Education here. Just saying hello to all of you guys. As usual with these, I'm going to be in the chat. So again, please utilize that chat feature. I'm sure you have lots of questions maybe for Andrea and Doug. I'm going to be there to try and bring those forward with the help of our team and try and get as many of those and see the general themes that are going on with that. Now, as usual, if you've experienced these before, I jump back and forth between the chat and Facebook and this process. So I'm going to cut out now. Andrea, take it away.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So my name is Andrea Birst, and I own Glance Spa Salon in Bismarck, North Dakota. I have owned that salon now for 10 years. And I've been involved with Strategies and coaching with Strategies now for close to 5 years, I think. And almost 2 years ago, I decided to go through the training, and I'm now a certified Strategies coach as well. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
It's great to have you here. And Doug,
well, my name's
say hello to everyone.
Hello,
grab
everybody.
a guitar, play a few tunes, keep going. Keep that corona out of sight.
Yeah, my name's Doug Bostick. I'm the salon manager of Hair Experience in Maryville, Tennessee. My wife's the stylist owner. We shut down the salon on March 17th, exactly on our 5-year salon anniversary. We reopened 3 days ago on May 11th. When I was doing research into salon models prior to opening our own salon, I stumbled upon Neil's white paper on team-based pay. And I worked for a Fortune 100 team-based plastics company in the 90s, and it made sense to me. I've done all this before, and since all businesses are essentially the same, I knew a team-based salon model would work for salons too. Everything's, we've always been debt-free. Productivity rate's always high. I don't know. We're a smaller salon than Andrea's. We 6 stylists, 6 chairs, receptionist, and me as the manager, but our numbers look fantastic.
All right, hang on.
Sorry.
Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
Your interview, okay. Hey, thanks for visiting with us, Doug. All right, I'm going to share the screen, get back to our slides, just take you through a couple of slides to get us rolling here.
All right.
And so as we've been saying for quite a while now, these are surreal times and the ride is far from over. It's one thing to have to close your company down, but then having to wind it up again and get it open and all the new rules and protocols and whatnot. But there's a lot of detail and a lot of stuff going on. So that ride is far from over. And it's just kind of funny how each week goes. Last week and the week before and the week before, it was all about the PPP loans and forgiveness and, what are they trying to do to us? And is it really going to be forgiven? And actually, which kind of loan did I get? All I know is I have money in the account. And now we're talking about the reopening protocols. So there's a lot going on, a lot of moving targets. And There we go. And the big question right now is, what is it like to reopen your company? And we're going to start off with Andrea from Glance Salon and Spa in Bismarck, North Dakota. So, Andrea, tell us, when did you shut down? I know you were probably not closed for, you weren't closed for like more than a month, I don't think, or about a month.
We were closed for 6 weeks. So
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Feels like 4.
I know. I know. Yeah, so we reopened on May 1st.
All right. So tell us what it was like, dealing with all the stuff and everything that was coming at you, and the planning and your employees, and getting them on unemployment, getting them off unemployment, and what was it like ramping up to open the doors again?
Okay, well, first of all, I'll say this. I think it's important to recognize that we're all in different areas and we're all running and managing different animals when it comes to our companies, and we all have to abide by different guidelines. And so obviously my experience is going to be different than anyone probably out there watching, and I recognize obviously all of that. But I think it's real to say that we've all experienced and overcome, and I shouldn't even really say overcome because it's still real to me today, this sense of fear and unknown and what things look like. And so when we found out that we could reopen, I really didn't expect it to happen. I didn't expect to hear that news that day. So it was like, I was hit by a freight train basically on that day, and it was like a scramble, 4 days to get ourselves prepared and get ready to get back in the salon and open our business again. And so the first point of my attention went to, are my staff okay to go back into the salon? And so I dedicated, after an overwhelming sense of emotion, I went first to dedicating my time to connecting to each one of my staff members, because it was important to me to figure out and make sure that all of them were comfortable going back. And to my surprise, they all were. I just really didn't know what to expect, honestly. And so I connected with all of them, made sure that they felt safe and comfortable to go back into the salon. And there, then it was understanding these guidelines that we just now were given 4 days before reopening.
Let me ask you a question. So,
Yeah.
there have been a lot of owners that ran into this interesting situation where they're competing with unemployment to get their employees back in, where they're happy collecting unemployment and sometimes doing better on unemployment. Did you have to run into any of that? Was that an issue?
For me, it wasn't. Obviously in the coaching world, I just spoke with someone today that is experiencing that. And I honestly, not one question came up. I have 18 employees. That wasn't even a thought process. And we spoke about it because my heart does go out for those owners. I mean, it is real and it sucks. I mean, to have to battle that. But I think for us, it just probably because we've worked hard on our culture over these last few years, and we have a strong culture within our salon. And, I've worked hard on leadership. We have internal leadership. Myself, growing to this place of where we were when we closed, I think is a testament to what we teach at Strategies too, and what we help companies work on.
Yeah, your culture, I know your story well, and your culture, you really got it dialed in over the last few years. And I think that means a lot, for owners that are trying to get people off unemployment, and the employers are going, well, I'm making more, or I'm happy being home. And of course, there's always the valid reason where someone's just afraid to come back because they're concerned for their health. But I need everyone listening to understand that culture plays a big part in this. And the more dialed in your culture is, the easier it is to get them back. You had to come back, and what about all the protocols, the new safety protocols, wearing face masks, and how did your employees deal with that? How did you deal with that? How did your clients deal with that?
Yeah, so first of all, it was understanding what it meant. And I'm very much a detailed person, and I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what we were supposed to do. I didn't want to get in trouble. I wanted to be sure we were as safe as possible to prevent anyone from getting sick, obviously. So I made phone calls. I reached out to the state health department, our state board, made sure I knew exactly what we had to do. So I, I went through everything. I had to take away furniture so that everything was sanitizable. I mean, I think a lot of the guidelines are similar. I know some of you probably haven't gotten your guidelines yet, and then it was finding the proper disinfectant, right? I researched kill times. I learned more about disinfectant than I ever wanted to know. And then face masks, right? And we've never worn face masks. And I never knew the extent that would, the issues that would create, right? So I had my mother-in-law sew a bunch of face masks for my staff. So we each had some to take home and wash, and then come to find out that there's specific fits that fit better for people, and you feel like you're suffocating in these masks. And anyway, so that by far has been our biggest challenge is the masks. But honestly, outside of the masks, and for us, the social distancing piece didn't affect us like it did for many, because we have such an open space concept in our salon. So we had to discontinue using some of our stations, which isn't a big deal for us, really. And other than that, I mean, we hand sanitize more than we have in our entire lives. But I think the important piece for us that I am glad I recognized right away is the screening on the phone calls when we went to reschedule all these, crazy amounts of guests that we had to reschedule, but to inform them of all the protocols that we had put in place, make sure that they come wearing a mask, make sure that they hand sanitize when they get there, make sure they understand that we have our seating areas spaced appropriately for distancing, so that they felt safe. They knew that we were doing what we needed to do. But part of that screening process was to make sure that we communicated with them that if they weren't feeling well, please stay home. And obviously, if they're not comfortable coming into our business, we appreciate that, and we just ask that you wait till you are comfortable.
So one of the things that you told me when we discussed this last week was how you really wanted to get all of the questions and the information and set the table, so to speak, so that the clients knew what they were going to experience. First, it's helping them calm down and be aware, that you're making every effort. And I think, one thing that so proud of our industry for is how salon owners and spa owners in general have stepped up to really, really lock into these safety protocols. But you handled all of that on the phones before they even got there. And then there was another piece that you told me about your phones that you did that I'd also like you to share. And if you don't remember, I'll remind you. But so.
Well, okay. So first of all, I'll start by saying that one thing that I chose to do as a business owner is I connected with each of those guests prior to, when we closed, and then I called them all again to reschedule. So I was happy that I got to connect with them to, yes, help with that fear, make them feel comfortable, make them feel at ease coming into our business, and also just to show our guests and our community that we were, rising to that occasion of taking all the sanitary precautions as possible. But if you can imagine now being closed for that long, and even though we went through and scheduled all those guests, it was over 1,600 phone calls that we had to make, the phone was crazy. I mean, there was absolutely no way we could answer the phone on the first few days being there. So how we handled it for us is we chose to record a message, and we left it on the night button so that we could be fair in the rescheduling process to get all the previous guests scheduled. And then the recording just said, listen, if you've had an appointment scheduled with us, please be patient. We're doing our best during this time to reach out to all of you. So you'll hear from us. If not, leave a message and we'll return your call to get you scheduled when we can.
And the clients were okay with that? You didn't have any repercussions from the leaving messages and whatnot?
No, I mean, honestly, again, I think the common denominator that I keep running into is fear. And that was a big fear of mine as an owner. Like, are we going to have crazy clients that, you know, are irritated that they can't get in? Or, but honestly, from our experience, it's gone great. It's been countless hours on the phone, which was daunting and overwhelming, but people have been so great, so supportive. And, you know, we were able to get everyone scheduled appropriately, and we haven't dealt with that, not one time.
All right, I see Michael came back on. What do you got, Mike?
So a couple questions for Andrea that are coming up. I got like 2 or 3, Andrea, so they're all pretty straightforward. So kind of put them all into your brain here and you can answer them all at once. The first one was around gloves, and just asked, you mentioned a lot about obviously constantly wearing masks. Are you guys, are you working with gloves constantly? That was one thing. And then I imagine is, if so, just maybe share a little bit of what you're getting feedback-wise or experience-wise as a service provider from that angle. I can kind of read the question behind the question on that one. Another is also directed to you, Andrea, which is, what was the timeline for turning a client and preparing for the next service? So again, what timelines did you fall under, and what are you doing about that? And then the very last one is, and again, this is kind of open to both, but we'll leave with Andrea right now, which is, did the salon charge a COVID, like an upcharge, or did you, basically in a nutshell, did you adjust anything price-wise in relation to this whole COVID-19 and expenses and things of that nature? So gloves, timeline for turning people around, and did you do anything different pricing?
Okay, so gloves, our guidelines stated that we could hand sanitize between every guest or wear gloves and change gloves in between every guest. So we chose to, I found a local supplier, which is great, so we could support local. So every station has its own hand sanitizer bottle on it. So, but we are using our gloves as normal with coloring services. So gloves are being used when as normal for that. And otherwise we're hand sanitizing in between each guest's at our stations. We had an interesting guideline that we are following through. We've always worn gloves when it comes to waxing services. So we have gloves that we obviously use and throw away in between every waxing, face waxing client. Sorry, I got a little crazy with my earbuds, but, and then also we have to change gloves in between switching out laundry, which I found interesting for our guidelines. So we have a box of gloves there by the washing machines, both sets, and then we have gloves obviously for waxing clients as well. So in regards to the disinfecting and timing with switching out, turning over stations for clients, like I said, I did my research and I found a disinfectant with a kill time of 3 minutes. Yeah, I went through the barbicide certification in that as well. And if you did, you know that the spray barbicide sanitation time frame for kill time is 10 minutes. I needed something faster. I really worked hard to not, I didn't want to add time to my services. That was my personal choice. I really didn't want to have to deal with that. It seemed, obviously I want to be safe and that was my first priority, but I really wanted to try to make things as smooth as possible. So the kill time on the disinfectant that I found was 3 minutes. So when I brought my team in before we reopened, we really worked on what that system would look like and we practiced. And so every station has a bottle of disinfectant as well.
Can you share the disinfectant? Because I'm sure everyone's typing, what disinfectant did you find? So yeah, I'll save Michael jumping back on again.
Yeah, it's called Equifact 265. And it's great because it's cheap. That's the beautiful thing. I think it costs $27.99 for a container of it, and it mixes 32 gallons of solution. So it's beautiful. Anyway, so look it up. You can order it online.
Give it one more time.
It's called it's called Equifact 265.
Okay.
So I got it through a Beauty Craft as a local distributor here. So when we practiced the system, we had to develop little internal systems in order to make sure that we were following through with sanitizing each station. And honestly, it's every time a guest sits in a chair, it has to be sanitized. And every time you shampoo, that has to be sanitized. So a lot of these things you just never thought about before. So when we finish the ending consultation with a guest and the client stands up, we have our stylist spray down the station. And by the time they walk the guests to the front, do the checkout process, get them rescheduled, rebooked. And by the time they return with the next guest back to the chair, I mean, your 3-minute time is over. And I really chose to make sure that our guests were seeing us do this cleaning process right in front of them. So it's what we chose to do. And I encourage it. Again, it's to keep that client and your guests feeling comfortable. So, the guests see us spray the stations down, they see us wipe it down again. Then there becomes a little bit of a challenge when it comes to your shampoo areas and things that you maybe don't have time to stand there for 3 minutes, but it's just a simple little system and you'll develop your own. But we just leave a paper towel sitting right in the bowl so that another team member would recognize as they walk by, and we just, help each other out and work as a team to make sure we're keeping our stations clean and our salon clean through all of this.
All right, Michael's back.
I am back. So before we get too far, and again, Neil, you were perfect. Thank you for sharing the sanitizer, because just as you said it, the list of, what did she say again, came through. And so we got that answered. And like I said, others kind of jumped in and wrote that out in there. So again, thank you to everyone that had the support on that. I appreciate it. A couple questions before they get too far gone. And some of these we might not be able to answer, or one of these we might not be able to answer, and maybe Doug can or cannot. I'm not sure exactly the full range of services, to be completely honest. I'm not sure the full range of services that everyone's salon offers here, or business offers. So we'll start with the two that are kind of right out of the gate. The first one is in particular, around a signed waiver. Are you doing anything with a signed waiver? And are you doing anything different when it came to work, like working in shifts or regrouping your work, your work from that standpoint? So those would be two immediate things. Waivers, doing anything with that? And what are you doing, any kind of shift work, or how you're juggling a schedule would be the first thing. And then the one question that might be out there that we might not be able to address is, there are questions definitely coming up around those that might have aesthetic services that they offer, or massage services that are offered, and just some of the nuances around, changing those over, or the protocols that you're using there, like gloves or things of that nature. So if you can't answer that one, that's understandable. Just let us know. Not something we offer. But maybe Doug could, or add to it if there are services that he may offer that are aesthetic or massage related, that could chip in a little bit more around this whole idea of gloves and disinfecting and turning rooms over in time periods and whatnot. So those are the immediate three: waiver, shifts, and aesthetics and massage.
Okay. All right. So I'll first say that, again, we're all different. And just because I'm doing one thing doesn't mean that this is what's going to be right for you in your state and with your guidelines. But I personally chose not to do the waiver. I thought it would be important for me to reach out to my insurance agent, speak to my attorney, and my insurance company, because, if I would have a claim filed against me, and obviously there would be, any issues, my insurance policy would be paying out. So for their recommendations, that's what I chose to do. So for me, no, I'm not doing the waivers, but because I'm also following what the state health department had asked of me with the screening of the phone calls, everyone is told the exact same thing. And I can assure that if anything were to come up for us. So that's what I know about waivers for us. Scheduling times, again, our guidelines don't say that there has to be a certain amount of people as far as employees working or bodies in the building at one time. We just have to abide by the 6-foot distancing. So luckily, the way our salon is set up and our stations are, structured within the salon, we didn't have to cut any schedules. In fact, I am able to allow staff to even pull overtime hours right now, especially with the PPP money, which has been great. And I'm able to abide by that distancing. So I have, 18 employees. 14 of which are service providers. I have 14 hair stations. I have to not use some of them, but of those stylists and skincare providers, we have rooms upstairs and nail service stations. And so as long as we structure appropriately, we're able to, abide by that guideline. So again, that might look different for you. That's how it is for us in North Dakota. And I can speak.
Yeah, I do remember in our conversation that you said with respect to, because of the PPP loan and where your 8-week window ends, you're allowing your employees to work overtime so they can recoup some pay or just make more. And that's helping you get to your forgiveness target.
I felt it was a win-win. We have a lot of guests that needed to be taken care of, and we could abide by those guidelines. And so I don't really allow overtime as a policy per se on a normal basis, but I just allowed our team to, if they chose, they could add hours, during this first month back to help guests and to also help recoup some of their dollars as well.
All right, I got one more question for you. Spa services?
Yeah. So I can speak to that a little bit. We don't offer massage in our salon, but we do offer, body treatments, facial skincare services, lash services. And to abide by our guidelines, we can do those services. And the guest does not have to wear a mask when receiving a facial or any face waxing, as long as the technician is wearing a mask and they're in their treatment room. So they're away from other bodies, and one of the two is masked in the room, and that's how we can get by with that. The other thing that we've chosen to do is we've discontinued a few other little services, obviously, within the salon, and with lash services, we've just discontinued the use of extra blankets, and we just throw a flat sheet over our beds to turn over so that's washable, and just to increase some sanitary measures like that within our rooms.
All right. Last question, and we're going to jump to Doug. What financial challenges did you overcome, and how? What did you run into? Just how were you going into this? Did you really need the PPP loan? All that stuff. So spit it out.
Well, here it is. Again, I'm thankful for strategies. I'm thankful for the position that our company was in going into this thing. I did have cash reserves in place, so I was thankful that I was able to transfer some money over that I needed right away. I discontinued anything that I possibly could. I chose to, obviously pay our rent and keep some things in place that I didn't want to have to back pay or figure out, going forward. But because, my awesome coach Dennis has worked hard with me over the last years, I've been a little bit more strict with my money. So I was happy with that. I honestly, to answer your question, did I need the PPP loan? Probably not. Is it a great help to get us back on track and get us back in the game and, going strong again? Absolutely. I'll take it. We'll take whatever we can get. But because we were able to have the unemployment, I just was happy that our staff was taken care of. They had the extra dollars there that we spoke about. And so it just made it easier to get through all of this with that help and knowing that they were taken care of as well. So again, thankful that we're a team-based salon and that our team is paid hourly, and that I didn't really have to overcome any of those struggles with unemployment issues there as well.
All right, that Michael guy's back again.
Yeah, well, I knew that today was going to be a good day for me, doing some good work.
You wore your strategy shirt,
Andrea, and again, Doug, I've written all these questions down because also just giving you a heads up, I think it's always nice to know how different people are doing things because again, some of the nuances of how you've handled some of this would be different than how Andrea did. So it's always great to get different perspectives or what the different requirements are in different areas. So I have written these down, so I'll kind of recap these, to you a little bit later, Doug, when I jump in. Last thing for you, Andrea, though, is I don't know if I missed it or not, but it came back up in the chat. Did you do anything different with your pricing? So there was that question I think that was left maybe out there, or maybe I just personally missed it, but I did see it come back up again. And then the last one, before we kind of change gears a little bit is, so pricing, anything you did there, and are you guys doing the full-on services such as like blow dries? Are you going start to finish just like a normal service, or are you are you shortening anything like not doing blow dries, or maybe something specific like that? So
Yeah. Okay, so we chose not to adjust any pricing with our services. We chose not to add a set like personal protection cost to our services. Now, recognize I didn't have to install any sort of plexiglass. We're having our clients come wearing their own masks. I just told you the price of the disinfectant that we were able to find. And so, you know, again, I recognize that things are different for everybody. So that's what we chose. And also because we worked hard on not adjusting or adding any time for those services, that's just what we chose to do. Now, for those of you that do lash services or nail services, or even we've had more corrective colors now than I've probably ever experienced in my entire 10 years. And we price accordingly for those, but it became all full sets for lashes, all full sets for nails. And again, the timing was booked accordingly and the pricing was charged accordingly for that too. And because we can all work together and we're a team salon, and we had some younger staff that have been able to step up, you know, and shine now more than ever, it's been great because it's allowed us to, you know, service those guests appropriately and take care of their needs. And also we worked hard as a team to recognize that, listen, consultations are now more important than ever. And if there was some homework done that had to be corrected in the salon, or, you know, because of the timing that had gone by, you know, this is a perfect opportunity to be thorough with consultations, get the clients back into the salon sooner for the work that, you know, needs to be done because of the time gap that you've had over this time. And so honestly, it's gone surprisingly well, but I just will say that communication, consultations, you know, is so important, and you just can't forget that. And honestly, I will just say too, this, and then Doug, it's your time to jump in, but I'll just say that it was really surprising to me to have and I hope you all experience this, I really do, but it was just so great to get past the fear again with these clients, and they're all understanding. I mean, if they wanted more, it's almost like they're like, I'll just take whatever I can get, just get my gray covered and I'll come back. You know, so it's recognizing that everyone is sensitive during this time and knowing that you have a lot of work to do. But they're just so happy to come in and you know, see us and let us take care of them. And I think it's just a true testament to the work that we do in our industry and how important it is, you know, to our guests. And you know, there's the saying that distance makes the heart grow fonder. And I think it's even relevant to our guests because now they appreciate us more than they ever have. So it's been fun.
Thank you so much. We'll have you back on for some Q&A in a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I promised Doug, I found the perfect picture to introduce you, sir.
Oh boy, thanks.
Because what really stood, yeah, well, it is your lovely wife, Marina, but everything that you wrote about and been talking about has been overwhelmed in the work, and I'm looking for a photo of you to put on a slide. And I see this roller coaster, and it's like, man, that, you know, you were on a roller coaster ride. So this was the picture, and I wouldn't dare cut your wife out of that photo because I don't want to get beat up. So, so Doug, you wrote this post that was on our Facebook idea exchange, and the key word was overwhelmed. What was it like? Now, again, you just opened up 3 days ago.
Yeah. It was
tell us what was going on.
Yeah, it was a lot more overwhelming getting ready for everything, and just the dread of thinking what might happen, and like in Tennessee, they changed the dates on us 3 different days, 3 days in a row. So I mean, and then they took the protocols off the state board that they originally had, and the governor replaced them with new protocols and gave us 1 week to before reopening date. We chose to wait like an extra 4 days just to make sure we had everything planned. But the actual reopening has been like Andrea said, it's couldn't have gone better. Everybody, all of our guests are very understanding, very appreciative of all the steps we've taken. I did like a demand force newsletter with to 1,200 guests, and every week keeping them updated. So I didn't, we did contact every pre-booked guest to get them rescheduled, but we did such a good job of communicating with the newsletters. They didn't even, because I asked them not to call us, just be patient first. And the phones weren't crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, please don't
Yeah.
call us. Leave us alone.
and so I mean, they listened, and they love the newsletters, and they're just happy to come back, and they're patient if we can't get it, because I think we're booked 3.5 weeks out right now, and they're just like, okay, whenever you can get us in, great.
So what about your staff? And again, I know you have a smaller salon,
Yeah.
but
There's 8 of us.
what was it like?
Employees.
Yeah, lean into your mic.
Okay,
lean into
sorry.
your mic a little bit more. There
Okay.
you go. Not, don't get that close, but just so we can hear you better.
We had 7 there's 8 of us, and I got 7 of us on unemployment. First thing, they were very appreciative of that, and they didn't even realize they were eligible for that. So, and then we had, I have a strategies coach. He was saying, keep in contact with them on, we had like our weekly Zoom team meetings. We did a one-on-one with each employee before we reopened, after the state told us when, just to make sure they were comfortable. So, it's been great.
What was it like getting them back in? Did you have any issues with getting them off unemployment or anything like that?
Each one of them just, I just explained to them, we're all hard workers. Our productivity is sky high, and they're used to working, and I'm sure all of us would like to stay at home and get paid to do nothing, but the time's over, and you want to have something to come back to. If we just stayed like that, there wouldn't be a business to come back to, and everybody understands.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. I think it's disheartening for some owners that find themselves competing with unemployment. I think it's wonderful what the government did to come up with the extra $600 a week. But when it has employees making a decent weekly income, whatever anyone wants to consider decent, but when they can make as much or almost as much or more staying home, and they prefer that over coming back to work in the company that employed them, that's tough. And I'll go back to what Andrea said about the culture. I think the stronger the culture is, and the more people feel that they're truly part of your organization, the easier it is to get them back. And if you are competing with unemployment, then you probably have some culture work to do. There was one thing that you were sharing with us that, as a businessman, I think it's I mean, my heart was bleeding for you, but you kept saying, I like every day I'm getting these updates from you. I turned away 15 new clients today. Oh God, I should too, but I have no place to put them. Tell us what your strategy was as far as how did you decide to bring clients back in? Did you have some orderly fashion? How did all that work out?
Well, we have like this master, 7-page Excel spreadsheet that we managed. Always, my philosophy from the get-go was always take care of your repeat clients, because any new client that comes in, there's a 10% chance they'll be back in a year. Whereas if you take care of your repeat guests, 85% of them will be back in a year. So I wanted to take care of all the ones that were pre-booked first, Probably by the end of tomorrow, they will either all be back on the schedule, or we'll have left a message for them, and they will have had a chance to get back in. At that point, I'm going to send out another demand force newsletter saying, okay, anybody that does not have an appointment right now that has been to our salon before, give us a call. We'll get you into the schedule when we can. And then after, probably another few days getting them back in, then I'll open it up to new clients.
And I think did you say you were telling new clients that you can't accept any new clients? Was it July 1st? I think you were looking
at first I was like
something
telling
like
them
that?
to call us back in July, and then I was like, well, this isn't, it's going better than I thought it was going to, because everybody's like afraid at the beginning. It's going better than I thought. I mean, all my stylists have agreed to work extra hours, and I don't even think they're going to have to work into the end of June. I think we're going to get caught up sooner than we think. So right now I'm just telling new guests to call us back next week, and
okay,
we'll see what we might have for
them. Face masks, time standards.
I wish we were in South Dakota, because
well, you're not,
everybody's
buddy.
required to wear a mask. So when they come to the door, if they don't have one, I'll give them one that we paid like really high prices for. And there's not a lot of pushback. I hadn't had, there's been a couple of people on the phone, I'm not wearing a mask and all that, but most people, it just makes them feel safe. And our stylists aren't really crazy about wearing a mask all day, but they just adapt, and we're finding they like the 3-ply surgical mask better than the cloth mask.
Yeah. Time standards. I know you added 15 minutes per appointment.
Well, the initial
and on day one you said that was a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, like the first guidelines that came out of state board were really, really strict, and they were going to mandate 15 minutes between each client and all this stuff. And I started, rebooking people like that, and then they changed the standards, and I was like, okay, it doesn't take 15 minutes to sanitize between when the front desk, gets their system dialed in. So we're doing like Andrea, we're back to scheduling within normal time standards, and then I will add like an extra 15 minutes a couple of times maybe during the day for the stylist, in case somebody needs to catch up, or some sanitizing time or something like that. But and there's not been a problem at all.
Share your I think there were people that kept going, what did he say his productivity rate was? Because you were going, well, before this happened, we were running at this, and oh my God, I mean, we're going to be all the way down. We're going to totally collapse down to 90%.
Yeah.
And it's and I'm going, Doug, lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, we're sort of spoiled. I mean, we've been 93, 95 for the past 3 years straight, which is, it sort of shows we're having a hard time recruiting, but that's one of the reasons why we have strategies now. But it's not affecting any of the 4 business outcomes. I mean, our new client retention is good, our repeat, now I'm getting a brain freeze on those, but
that's all right. It's almost 5 o'clock in the east.
That's
so
right. But I mean, productivity. I was thinking, oh well, even if we have to go down to 85%, that'll still be better than lots of people. But I mean, I'm going to push it back down and get to 93, 95%.
But in a small salon, and I'm sorry to say small, but you have a smaller salon. But productivity rate is critical.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to maximize the space.
We did have to furlough one employee because we do have a little stricter, guidelines for the square footage and all that than Andrea does. But so I've got one of our junior stylists still on furlough, drawing unemployment. I think she liked that because she just started January 1st, so she's like, she's pretty happy.
Well, she's happy. There you go. And as far as number of people allowed. I think you mentioned it yesterday. You had to leave the salon
Yeah, I mean,
because you're
I'm keeping it 10 and under, you know, because we have a little, it's not a wide open thing. We have like 3 different stylist firms, 2 stylists each. And so, yeah, it got to a point yesterday when there would have been 11 of us. So I stepped outside for a little while until somebody checked out.
you were talking about PPP loans, and I think you didn't want anything to do with it, and then you started reading some of my posts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts now, wise guy?
Well, I mean, that's been one of the most stressful things of this
Yeah.
whole thing because, like, you know, I was just reading your all's posts and, you know, saw somebody write about the EIDL loan, and I did that. I got in on the first round of PPP and got a note from a large bank that said, you know, we're too full, check with somebody else. I applied to the second one during the second round. I got approved for both of them. I don't even, you know, I don't. So anyway, it was working good for us. But
Where were you financially going into this?
we were good. We had cash reserves. You know, that first month or the first couple of weeks after the shutdown, when all the bills from the first quarter came in, I mean, our cash reserves probably went down 25%.
Yeah.
But that's when I did what Andrea did. I shut everything down that could be shut down. Got our expenses down to probably $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then we did do the curbside color kits during the month of April for some of our clients, and we were able to generate about $4,000 of income during the month with that and product sales.
The rescheduling of appointments. I know you have that magnificent Excel file that you put together. I forget how many pages it was.
Seven pages, but we just started with like 250, I think. And we're gonna. My receptionist said, like, I think she's down to about 30 right now that have not had a message left, so she should be finished with that by the end of today.
What other safety precautions do you have in there? I mean, do clients have to wait outside and you let them know when they come in?
Yeah, the lobbies closed. You know, no magazines. Let's see, it's all in our protocols from the state, but I mean it's not that hard, and you know, just sanitize in between, and you know, they sanitize their brushes, and you know, we'll wipe down all the tools.
Would it be safe to say, just from what you were sharing, it was kind of anticlimactic?
Yes, that's a very good word for it, because it's not that much different than what most of us should already be doing sanitation wise.
Yeah, you were I think that was what, Friday you put the post on the ID exchange about being overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And you followed up the next day with, you know, with some more information, but it was you know, I think it's just, again, another one of these unknowns that you have to go through to get your doors open again, and you want to make sure everything is, you know, is everyone going to come back? You know, will the clients come back? Are they going to be okay coming back in? You know, will other clients be okay being patient until we can get them in? So I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Is there anything other than, you know, what was it, your Corona with lime that you were using to manage overwhelmness?
That was
Is there anything that you were doing, you know, for yourself to make sure you kept it together?
Yeah, I did. You know, we opened our salon 5 years ago, and I sort of took your advice, and I haven't had time for a garden, so I did like an amazing garden. I'm going to put it on on your Facebook page on the salon,
All right.
on the strategies page. But it's phenomenal, and it's sort of like a one of a kind garden, just sort of like our salon is. So yeah, I've been doing that to get my mind off of all the other stuff. And one thing I'll say is we sort of switched from all this other stuff about PPP and being nervous about if people are going to come back. Now, what I guess the next fear is, like, what's going to happen in July or August? Is the economy going to crash, and are people going to have money? And so I guess we're just going to jump from one fear to the next.
Well, it's what owners do.
Yeah.
Because if you had no fear, then you're probably, as an owner, you're shot. I don't want to say dead. Hey, we've all been dealing. I've been dealing with it. I mean, everyone we talk to is just trying to deal and wrap your head around the unknowns, and not, when you start getting into the economy and airlines and car makers and restaurants and hotels, and I mean, you can get really overwhelmed. And we keep going back to, you got to control what you can control. What is your, now that you've been open a whopping 3 days,
Mhm.
do you have any insight on what you may see as we get into June and July? I mean, is it going to be, because the clients that we've been talking to at Strategies are, we're hearing the few that have opened, and we've had a couple of spas open. Actually, I tried to get one spa owner to come on this town hall meeting, and she goes, "I'm so booked up." She goes, I'm not asking a client to wait 3 more weeks for me to get her in, so it's an honor. But she declined. But she said she's busy as could be. One thing that Andrea didn't mention, and she did share it with me recently, is that, with people working overtime and there's more hours to sell, she's having some of the best service and retail days that our company's ever had. What are you seeing in that area?
Yeah, we had like I said, we had a really good day yesterday. We've been selling quite a bit of retail, but having to cut down one station, that could affect that. But our stylists agreeing to work extra hours. That's gotta, with the PPP loan, the way I understand that works, that's got to be good for us. So
Sure. So you're doing overtime. You doing split shifts or anything like that?
not having to do that really, just the way
Okay.
their days work out, and the way the rooms are set up. So
Where do you see, again, looking in your crystal ball, um, economically, financially, for your company, uh, how do you feel? Are you very optimistic, kind of optimistic,
I'm very optimistic.
overwhelmed?
Like I told Jason, like I told our coach early on with Strategy, I'm thinking after the PPP that we should be ahead of where we would have been financially at the end
Yeah.
of this than if it never would have happened. That's sort of, you know, that's what I'm thinking. I might be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing still.
Do you have, based on when you opened and when you got the PPP loan, um, did you get it before you opened, or how
We
did
had
that
a
timing
we had
work?
when the governor originally announced that we wouldn't be able to open until May 29th, I had gotten an email that day that we would get the deposit in the bank on May 5th. So I'm immediately, that's why I didn't sleep very good that night, because I'm
Yeah,
thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to turn this thing down because I can't. People aren't gonna work that, and I don't even know if I'd be able to give that many bonuses and still get forgiveness.
sure.
So, um, but yeah, we've got 7.5 weeks to use it. So I mean, I think that's pretty good timing.
Yeah, I would say so. Um, all right, we covered our stress, financial challenges. We got the PPP loan. Michael, do you have any questions coming in from the chat?
All right. Well, you are definitely catching, I think, most of them that come in just kind of naturally with what you were asking. The one seems to be that keeps coming up is around blow drying, and just the fact that, Doug, are you still doing blow dries
Yeah,
and still following through with the full service like that?
we just do hair at our salon, and originally everybody was a little bit nervous, but it's not against the guidelines. Everybody's wearing masks. Yeah, so we're doing blow dries.
All right. So that seemed to be one of the most common recurring questions. Other things that have come up Neil, you've kind of just naturally answered. And again, a lot of the similar, which I think we've covered with Doug, so thank you for this, covered a lot of what I was able to ask of Andrea, just again, that different perspective on what Doug is doing around, again, split shifting, around blow drying, the areas around pricing, different things like that seems to be the common thread. So I'm going to jump back out, go in as we're kind of coming up near the end of our time this hour. I'm going to jump back in and see if you guys have any last questions that we haven't addressed. Throw them in to the chat, and so we can open them up to either Andrea or Doug or both. And so I'll jump out for a minute, go into the chat, see what's going on, and be back.
And we did decide to add the $5 sanitation fee. We don't enforce it at this point on everybody. If they're getting a brow wax or something, I'm not going to charge them $5 sanitation fee. But I'm doing mainly for colors because we had to invest probably about $1,000 into our sanitation supplies with masks. And I met somebody on the side of the interstate and bought 2 gallons of hand sanitizer in a McDonald's parking lot because you have to be prepared for the unknown. So when I recoup what we've invested in it, I'm not looking to make money on the sanitation.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that you had to buy more towels just in case because you were surprised at the laundry. Yeah. Did you do waivers?
Washing a lot of cakes.
Yeah.
Receptionists having to wash a lot of cakes because the state requires a new cake for each guest.
Which is the way it should be anyway.
That's the way we've always done.
Waiver? Are you doing waivers?
No waivers. Yeah, we're not. Because from what I've read, I don't even think that would really help anyway. So.
Yeah, I think
a waiver for the curbside color kit, just in case.
Okay.
I don't think that would really matter either.
All right, so I'm going to change our view here. Andrea, anything you'd like to add? While Michael's scouring for another question for us to answer.
Yeah, no, I just think it's important. I think it's definitely been an interesting time, but I do believe, like Doug said, now is our time to get back in the game and become stronger than ever. And I do see, like Doug said, yeah, we're busy now, busier than we've been in probably forever. And I assume towards the end of May and into June, we'll calm down a little bit with that. But still, our guests are pre-booking now more than they ever have. So I think the crisis has, taught us a lot of lessons, even our guests a lot of lessons. And so I think it's important as leaders to think about those things and take advantage of, all of that stuff and really strengthening your team. And I think the one fear, or I shouldn't say one of the fears that I had as an owner coming into this was, I didn't want to hear my team being, burnt out, overwhelmed, stressed out, like coming back to work in full force. And I'll just say that it's been great. They've had fun. The guests are just so appreciative. And even though our productivity is higher than we've seen in a long time, if ever, my staff's morale and, attitudes have been great. So I hope, and that's my wish for everybody.
All right. I'm going to share my screen again. Michael, you're back. Before I share.
I've got 3 things before we kind of wrap up and you finish sharing, Neil, is this. I think 3 things came out as I was back into the chat that I think are just cool things for both Andrea or Doug to kind of answer. The 3 things are, have you noticed any changes in retail or maybe even how you handle retail, but just kind of the overall attitude around retail in general would be one question. Another is, which I thought was a cool question for you guys to kind of address, is you've kind of shared about the team and about their overall vibe, but what's been the overall vibe of the client? So just kind of maybe what you guys have noticed from the customers that are coming in and their overall demeanor as far as that goes and their thinking around this whole situation. And then finally, the last one is, are you doing, if you do services in between clients, are you still doing that or not? Say, for example, what I mean by that is, to be clear, let's say, for example, you do a color service where you normally have processing time that is open, and maybe your normal booking would be to put another service in that processing time. Are you still, again, are your booking habits still the same as they have always been? And are you doing services in between, or have you kind of just said it's one service per, we're just really staying focused on one guest, one service to its completion, and not moving anything in between? So those are the three final things. If you guys want to address retail, overall vibe of the customer that you're noticing, and just how you're booking, if you happen to book services in between, are you still doing that, or is it just staying singular focused?
I'll start. So just retail, we did make a change to where we don't allow our guests to touch any of the retail products, which has proved to be great because it's an added force for our stylists to fulfill the closing consultations. And it's been a great kind of lead-in question to close those consultations, because now they have to grab the products for the guests. So that's been good. And yeah, our retail sales have been great too. I think clients have gone a long time now, and everyone's needed to get fulfilled with their product needs. So that's been good. The overall vibe with clients honestly has been great. We've gotten more cookies, more pastries, more extra dollars from clients. Even today, I had to go to the bakery and drop off pastries for the staff because a client left extra money. They're just so happy to see us back and to have our business again reopen, obviously for their needs, but just I think to see the kind of economy get started up again. And so I would say, and I think I might have mentioned this, but there has been, if I had to guess, about 20%, maybe a little less, of clients hesitant to come in just yet. So I will say that there is still fear, and we need to recognize that. I think that, we have all sorts of viewpoints of this virus in this time right now. So some guests are waiting, but again, morale is high. And as far as servicing the guests, that has been a big challenge for us, and a change that we have overcome. We do fill our processing times, but we're able to do that. The change that we made and implemented was that typically the guest would move stations. If they're being serviced by another team member next, the client would move to the next, stylist station, where now we just leave the guest stationary in their station, and the stylists move from station to station. So it's almost like we're all sharing everyone's station, which is something I've wanted to implement for a long time into the salon anyway. So it's also been a good change. So we're able to maximize those times, but we just had to switch to have the guests stay in one station throughout the whole time, just so we have to sanitize less and have less shifting. And so our stylists move accordingly.
All right, Doug?
And then, we were just starting to really increase our retail sales after, Jason's prodding with our strategies coach since January. So, and then I was using the Demand Force newsletters to push retail as well, explaining to our clients the importance of retail and helping us to stay in business and all that. So, yeah, and they're not allowed to touch the retail shelves here either, because anything anybody touches has to get sanitized. And our client reactions, they're extremely thankful. Again, it goes back to the newsletters and Demand Force, which I'd never used in 5 years. So I'd never used them until this crisis. It's an amazing tool I've discovered, that, because they just hung on every word and making them feel safe, and they just love to be back. And then we've never double booked. We speed up our processing times with steamers. So, and we're just allowed to have one client per stylist in our salon at any time anyway. So that doesn't really affect us. But yeah, we don't never have double booked.
All right. I want to thank both of you for coming on, and I'm glad you didn't get overwhelmed, Doug. I know you worked hard, preparing for this. It wasn't an exam, but you did great. I'm glad you're finally open, and you're helping people understand what it's like to have to go through the reopening of their business. And Andrea, you've been doing a great job too, and I thank you for sharing. I'm going to share my screen one more time because I need to just help you guys out with one little thing here, which will help us out. You know, we love what we do at Strategies. We've spent a lot of time working on our coaching memberships. We do memberships where, you know, you sign up for a year of coaching. We have smaller packages, but in our main coaching, we built in a lot of recovery tools. So we're doing the EIDL and PPP forgiveness planning and how to use the funds and how to do the payback. As always, we do detailed revenue forecasting, budgeting, and monitoring. The monitoring, we're not allowed to smack our clients, but we work really hard at monitoring, you know, how well they're living their cash flow plan. Because to talk to you, Doug, and Andrea, and that you had cash reserves and you were in good shape going into this, that's really what you're working for. We do P&L and balance sheet assessments, service pricing to ensure profitability. So for those of you that were on our town hall meeting 2 weeks ago on service pricing, and we showed you our tool to do cost per hour pricing, so you can make sure that you're covering all your expenses, even if you have to add on additional time. As always, critical number benchmarking and evaluation, culture and leadership assessments. You know, again, the culture to get your people back in off unemployment is so important. And if you've been having a challenge, maybe it's time to take a look at your culture. Team-based pay, it's what we teach at Strategies. You know, I guess over the years I've started to say, well, maybe it's not for everybody, but you know, it's something you need to look at. It's a hell of a way to run your company, and there's a reason that people on team-based pay have different cultures and just have different benchmarks and critical numbers. And then we started doing, well, we're launching it. We were just ready to launch it when this whole thing started, but we're including a DISC assessment, you know, for the DISC, the personality profiles, an assessment and review for all owners that sign on, and we have packages for where we can do your teams. I think that stuff are a little further down the road. We got to get you open first. Go to strategies.com, scroll down a little bit, sign up for one of our complimentary coaching calls. We're happy to tell you what we can do for you, and answer any questions and help you have some guidance on your business and how you're doing and what you can do and get it to a better place. I think that's a heck of an opportunity that we have as an industry right now to come back better, more disciplined, stronger, you know, go employee-based salons. You know, you've worked hard out there, and I wish you all luck. Michael, any last minute comments that you want to throw out there?
No, I think this has been a great town hall. Lots of love for you guys. Just to let you know, a lot of love for all of you guys, Andrea and Doug, especially for sharing today. And actually, you know, one of the things that came up is at the very end, it's like, would have loved to have an esthetician or a massage or whatever. And I was just about to write in the answer. You know, Neil tried really hard to line up, and honestly, you know, that just, the glitch we ran into there was just the fact that because we wanted to represent the full industry, the glitch we ran into was just, and this is a great glitch, was the people that were reached out to were just simply, they had just reopened and were so busy that it was like, I would love to do it, but I gotta do my work. And we understand that completely. That is not that's a great thing. And so we love seeing them busy and back to work. So again, we really tried hard to have a full representation in here. But again, I'm sure maybe down the road we can line that up as well. So but this has been great.
All
Awesome.
Right. All right. So with that, thank you all very much. we'll see you again next Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day it is. Next Wednesday at 4 p.m. for Town Hall meeting number 9. So take care, guys. Be safe. Doug, Andrea, thank you. Eric, you look awesome. Michael, you were fantastic.